Welcome, and thank you for joining us today for the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Show live at your table. Before we get started with our discussion on 8 hot tips for keeping a safer, zero-waste kitchen, we'd like to share some housekeeping items to keep in mind. All audience members are on listen-only mode, which means you are muted. We will be monitoring audience engagement on the dashboard and do encourage you to participate by using the question pane. There'll be time for questions at the end of the presentation. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and will be available on our website, flrestaurantandlodgingshow.com, by the end of the week. Now, without further delay, let me introduce Mareya Ibrahim, food expert, author, CEO, inventor of Eat Cleaner. Thank you, Mareya, for being with us today.
Thank you. Excited to be here with everybody. Happy Monday. Today, I want to dive into 8 hot tips for keeping a safer and zero waste kitchen. And the reason for this hybrid topic is partially because I am very passionate about our own contribution to the environment that we can make every single day. And a lot of it has to do with our kitchen practices. But September is National Food Safety Education Month. And I thought it would be fitting to dive into this a little bit deeper. It seems like only yesterday that we really entered into this kind of new normal of keeping a little bit more awareness around food safety. But the truth is, for those of us in the food industry, we've been doing this for a long time. It's the first thing that you study when you go to culinary school. If you work in a restaurant or any sort of food service operation, the emphasis on food safety is always front and center. But I think for all of us, if we are not in that world every day, it becomes that much more important for us to take a look and see what we should be doing in order to keep ourselves and our families and everybody that is enjoying our food safer. So I'm going to dive into that a little bit just to give you a little background on myself. I've been in the food industry now for 27 years. I'm a chef and holistic nutrition coach. As Amy mentioned, I am the founder and CEO of Eat Cleaner. Our corporation name is Grow Green Industries. So sometimes you see us listed like that in our listings on websites and such. But we are the creators of the only full line of patented, all natural and lab proven food safety and shelf life extension products. So there again, you understand my passion for zero waste with that shelf life extension to keep food out of the landfills. And I'm going to talk about why that's so important. And just recently, last year, I came out with my latest book. It's called Eat Like You Give a Fork: The Real Dish on Eating to Thrive. If you've been to any of the live Clarion events, hopefully we've had a chance to meet. I did a book signing at the last couple, and it was so thrilling to meet so many people and share some of those amazing recipes. So let's dive in. I'm gonna just kind of chat with you a little bit about why this is so important that we pay attention and really look and examine our daily habits every day. So let's talk about food safety for a second. You may have seen the statistic, but it bears repeating, that there are 48 million cases of foodborne illness in the US alone reported, and that means 1 in 6 Americans. Of those cases, 128,000 hospitalizations and 3,000 deaths. That is data that has been gathered through the FDA. That is a staggering number. If you think about 1 in 6 people have been affected. Now, this can range if you've ever been misfortunate enough to feel foodborne illness. I know I have several times and in different ways. It doesn't matter if it's just a mild case or an extreme case, it's still, pardon my French, sucks. It's not a fun feeling. I had a personal situation, a story that I'll share. It's very ironic, actually. I was invited to participate in a pilot show called MVP. I was going to be meeting with world famous athletes like Kevin Durant and Gronk, and I was presenting my Eat Cleaner line of products, and I was staying in LA that night. I ate something that got me incredibly sick. I was up all night, not pretty. Still had to report to the show that day after trying to get a little bit of sleep, but I absolutely was wiped out. The interesting thing was I was talking about why our products were so important and why food safety needs to be on the forefront of everybody's mind. So very ironic that I became a statistic that night. And the truth is, this is reported cases. There are many people who would say that this is quite underestimated. So if you've had a personal experience, or you know somebody that has, you know how devastating this can be. And the symptoms can range from just feeling queasy to literally getting rid of everything, the contents of your stomach, not to be too graphic, to being hospitalized, and even extreme situations where people suffer from kidney failure and have paralyzing effects and can even die from this. I know that for my father, who is a cancer survivor and does not have a bladder, we have to be very, very careful. He uses a catheter every day. So foodborne illness, to some people, the effects are so devastating, we can't even wrap our heads around it. And for us as a company, that's really why we created Eat Cleaner. And I'll talk to you a little bit about that in a few slides. But let's talk about the other side of this equation. Food safety and food waste are the two biggest issues in the food world today. And so what does that look like? Food waste is one of the largest contributors, and in some cases, the largest contributor of greenhouse gas emissions. So that food that's rotting, that whole food, that maybe that food that's just slightly blemished, or that food that supposedly is expired but really isn't expired, is contributing to incredibly harmful emissions that are affecting our ozone. And if you want to wrap your head around this statistic, about 20 pounds per person per month, that's a whole lot of pounds when you wrap up how many people are on this continent. So we can each individually think about how we practice food safety and what we do to mitigate food waste in order to, again, make our own contribution. And I would say, if you do work for a food service organization, just think about how you can scale some of these tips to your organization. You know, I believe these habits start at home, but for those of us that are in the food industry, certainly they should trickle over if they're not already. So think about this. We are spending more time in our kitchens than ever before. I mean, I am a mom of now 5 kids with my husband and I just got remarried in February, kind of ironic timing, literally 3 weeks before COVID. And it's just kind of a funny thing if you think about the timing of getting married before that. But hey, we've got to know each other really, really well if we didn't before. And, you know, the idea can be daunting sometimes of cleaning and cooking and preparing over and over again, but it's our reality. And so we're spending more time in the kitchen than ever before. And if you think about it, more and more risk and more opportunity for cross-contamination, for something to happen in the kitchen that could lend itself to a situation. So just by the sheer fact that we're cooking so much more and we're preparing so much more requires us to take a look at this in that much more detail. I would also add that if you do have other family members, this is exponentially more important for us to share this information with everyone around us, because all those little hands and big hands have the opportunity to contribute to more contamination too. I find myself sharing these tips with our teenagers a lot. You know, when you grab the refrigerator door a million times, or when you leave dirty dishes in the sink, or when you are preparing food, knowing how to practice general food safety is really important, because it's not just about us as individuals, it's everybody in the house too. So I'm gonna dive in. Let's just dive into the 8 hot tips. And for some of you, this idea of washing our hands and surfaces, it's like, no duh. Yeah, of course we need to be doing it. But I would contend that we need to be a little bit more vigilant around all of our surfaces, bags, countertops, and the food itself. I was in a store, and it will remain nameless because I was quite horrified with what happened, but I was checking out. I had bought my groceries. I was checking out, you know, everybody had their masks. And what ended up happening is I was in line going through, and I saw the gal, after she had rang up the person in front of me, then go into her snack bag and start eating. And I just thought myself, obviously somebody did not go through food safety with this individual. I mean, she's touching everybody's stuff. She's touching a dirty conveyor belt, and then she's reaching her bare hands into her snack bag and putting it in her mouth. That is a major, major no-no. So washing our hands after contact with everything. If you are using gloves, gloves are single use. So if you're shopping in the grocery store, you're using your gloves, please don't reuse those. Just take them off, throw them out, and it's time to use another pair. If you are working in an environment like at a cash register, or you're working in a restaurant, you know, just there's no leeway for not being vigilant about that. And as consumers, I think it's really, really important that we look at all of the contact surfaces. So if you shop at a grocery store where you're buying things in bulk, I suggest getting rid of the outer packaging before, you know, you kind of bring it into your home and put it on the countertop. Just kind of put it in a pile, take it out to the recycling if you can recycle it. And think about buying things that are maybe not full of excessive packaging, because that is also contributing to each of our individuals' waste content. Cleaning out the bottom of your bags. You know, those bags are a hotbed for bacteria, preferably buying bags that are washable that you could stick in the washing machine, but cleaning them out every single time. And then also cleaning your contact surfaces vigilantly. So that means cleaning the door handle of the refrigerator, the microwave, the dishwasher, the oven, everywhere where we're grabbing things all the time, and then cleaning our countertops from where people have put things. I had to correct one of my teenagers and tell him not to put his sneakers on the countertop. Thank you very much. Look, it happens. I mean, not everybody is in tune to this. So, you know, just when we think that we kind of got it dialed in, there are other people that are added to this dynamic. So we're not alone in this. We've got to share the knowledge and share the wealth. And I know you've heard it before, but sing the happy birthday song, or if you don't like the happy birthday song, just count to 20 when you wash your hands and get under the fingernails and get those hands nice and clean. Now, the other part of what we do, and I'm just going to give us a 15-second commercial here, is we created the Eat Cleaner line in order to really cleanse your food. I'm talking about fresh produce, I'm talking about seafood and poultry, I'm talking about grains and beans that can carry a good bacteria load. So we have a full range of products at eatcleaner.com for home use and for institutional use. So again, if you're in a restaurant situation, food service situation, would love to be able to share those products with you. If you've ever been to one of the Clarion shows, you've probably seen our exhibit. It's really impressive to see just what a difference it makes, how much longer the produce lasts, how much shinier and more beautiful and more delicious looking it is. And that goes a long way in the appetite appeal when you're serving food to others. And that's Eat Cleaner. Number 2 is keeping your fridge tidy. Now, this is what I call hashtag fridge goals. Okay, if you have other people in your family, chances are it's not going to look like this for longer than how the time that it took you to set things up. But there are some basic principles for keeping your fridge tidy. And one of the really important parts of this is because overfilling your fridge can prevent cool air from circulating properly. So you may have your refrigerator set to the proper temperature, somewhere around 36 to 38 degrees Fahrenheit. But if it's overfilled, there's no room for the air to circulate, it is not going to be at the optimal temperature. So keeping it tidy is going to help to mitigate that from happening in the first place. And some of the practices that I like are, I like to get all of my produce washed, prepped, ready to go, and I'll put it in these clear containers at eye level so that you can actually see what you got to work with. And like we said, we want to keep the produce out of the landfill. So if we see it in clear containers, it's all organized on one shelf. You can throw it into salads easily, into soup, sautés, stir fries, you name it. And that's going to get you to enjoy safer, cleaner food more regularly. The coldest part of the refrigerator is towards the back and on the bottom. So that's a good place to store anything that's cut. Your dairy items, maybe you have lunch meats or cheeses or things like that. That's a good place to keep all of those items. So dedicating a shelf to keeping those items organized is really good. And then using, your organization skills to maybe write on the containers to say when you actually made something, when you put it away. And every time you go in and do a little fridge clean out, try and make it a habit to do it every 3 to 4 days. Leftovers shouldn't really be sitting in the refrigerator for longer than 4 days. That's about a good time to kind of think about restocking. So if you write on it with a little Sharpie, you'll know, again, when you've prepared it, so you don't have to do the guessing game, and neither does your family. I love, there's a great satisfaction in knowing that you haven't thrown any food away. So we'll do the kitchen clean out meal. If it's 4 days and we haven't finished stuff, that's what we're having for lunch or dinner. So everything gets put out on the counter and we serve ourselves buffet style. I don't know if anybody has experienced that or does that, but that seems to be a good practice. And if you have things like, some random veggies, you've got maybe some cooked brown rice, you've got a little leftover chicken from the night before, hey, it's perfect for fried rice, throw a few eggs in there and you've got dinner. So this makes it easier to pull meals together when you know what you have to work with. And very important before you replenish is just to wipe out any spills. I know it's very easy to kind of look at the crime scene that's in your crisper, see some greens that have gone bad or something that's kind of leaked over and just sort of ignore it and hope that the next person will clean it out. Just take that Eat Cleaner. By the way, Eat Cleaner can be used to clean the inside of your fridge since it's food grade. You can wipe out your shelves and wipe down everything. And I don't know, maybe I'm weird, but I find a great sense of satisfaction from having a clean, organized fridge. It's kind of a haven for me. And since I'm in the kitchen so much cooking, I need to have that. So that is why keeping your fridge tidy is so important. Number 3 is watch your time and temperature. We know that time and temperature is the enemy of fresh food. And the hotter it is, the more important it is to be vigilant about foods staying outside. If it's over 90 degrees out, which I'm in Southern California, and it sure still gets to over 90 degrees many days around this season, think about when you're going to the grocery store and getting perishable items, bringing them home in a cooler, or if you've got a little bit of a drive or you need to make a couple of stops before you get home, or using those refrigerator bags to keep everything nice and cool is a good practice. And if you're taking foods out to thaw, not leaving it out on the countertop, but actually thawing it inside your refrigerator on a tray that is self-contained. So if it leaks, it's not leaking down onto other foods. I always like to put it on the bottom shelf so it doesn't leak over onto other things in my fridge. When you're preparing food, to always use a thermometer. I always say you can't judge a bird by its color. So I have a thermometer that's pretty cool. It's actually a fork, so you can stick the fork into the thickest part of your proteins and get a good temperature read. And doing the same thing with your refrigerator. Like I mentioned, you want to keep your fridge between 36 to 38 degrees. And not leaving those leftovers out. So if you've got people over, you've got your family over for brunch or something, and you've got foods left out, or you've gone on a picnic, trying to avoid leaving them out for more than 30 to 60 minutes. So that is making sure your time and temperature is in check. Now, if you are in the food industry and you know what the internal temperature of your food should be, awesome. If you don't, we have a great guide. And I go into this in a lot more detail on our website at eatcleaner.com. In the blog section, you'll find that nice guide that shows you the cooking temperature for the most important things to be vigilant about. And there's also a podcast that you can listen to review some of this vital information. My podcast is called Recipes for Your Best Life. Number 4 is frozen has its features. You know, I always say don't give the frozen aisle the cold shoulder. There's a lot of benefit from getting foods from the frozen aisle, especially nowadays where you're finding a lot more sustainable options, gourmet options. You know, frozen foods are picked and packed at their freshness, so they're retaining flavor. The freezing aspect of preserving food can help to preserve its nutrient content and is actually a food safety step. So the presence of bacteria and the ability for it to perpetrate bacteria is mitigated. And there are a lot of great options in there. And I would say, you know, if you're preparing fresh food, don't be scared to freeze it as well. I do that practice a lot, especially when it comes to, you know, my philosophy about doubling the batch. With meal prep, I'll make something, and then if I want to have more for later, I'll just double it. It's a great strategy for getting meals ready for a rainy day. And I'm going to talk about saving some ingredients too. If you see things starting to turn a little bit, it's a great practice to just put them in an airtight container or bag, squeeze the air out of it so that you're helping to keep it preserve its freshness and its flavor so it doesn't get that freezer burn, and then saving it for a rainy day. I know there are a lot of manufacturers. I do a trend report every year, and there are a lot of manufacturers that are creating really exciting, fun products in the frozen food aisle. Just be careful of excessive sodium and excessive sugar and any artificial ingredients, colors, preservatives. You just want to kind of push those to the side. But lots of options abounding in the frozen aisle, and it prevents waste. So it helps with both our food safety and food waste points. Number 5 is maximize ingredient use. You know, when I set out to write my book, I was like, I am one of those gals that absolutely detests when you go to make a recipe and you have to use like a fraction of a teaspoon of an exotic ingredient that you're never going to use again. I mean, I like to be able to use ingredients and use them so that I don't have any left. Can I get an amen on that? So the strategy that I used in my book is maximizing ingredient use. You go to the grocery store, you use my shopping list, and then you can use those same ingredients in a number of different recipes. And it's a great strategy to implement so that you don't have this food waste. And you know, it does lead to food safety, because if you don't have things sitting around and then you're questioning whether or not they're fresh, you know, you don't have to worry about things making you sick. You're getting them into your meals, incorporating them in all the time. And there is a couple fun little hacks that I'll talk about. You know, I talked a little bit about taking those ingredients and maybe putting them together into a fried rice. But I'm a big fan of the idea of putting bowls together. A bowl can be for breakfast, lunch, dinner. And if you have simple ingredients like beans and broccoli and leafy greens, lettuces, collard greens, spinach, chard, you know, I'm a huge fan of microgreens. They're so nutrient packed. Avocado, and then you have these really versatile ingredients that you can mix and match. You can make a wrap from that. You can make a bowl, you can make a stir fry, you can stuff peppers and use those ingredients and mix and match. And I call them my convertible meals. And I have a whole strategy that talks about different fun ways to do that, but you can do it without a recipe. So that's a great way to maximize your ingredient use. Getting everything washed and ready to go is really helpful. You can take those ingredients and add them to your water. I'm a huge fan of lemon, cucumber, berry waters. You can make ice cubes out of them. And you can even use herbs in your ice cube tray with some olive oil or coconut oil. You'll see that ice cube, it's just an old school ice cube tray where I put in some ghee. I like cooking with clarified butter a lot. And I will take herbs from my garden. I have rosemary and basil and lavender, and I'll put them in these little cubes, and then I call them flavor bombs, you know, season them with a little salt and pepper, maybe some garlic, and other different types of herbs for whatever I'm cooking. And then you can throw one of those little flavor bombs in. So try not to let your herbs go bad. Just kind of, you know, check in on them and make sure nothing is going past their prime. And then you can incorporate them into your meals in lots of different ways. But being a little bit conscientious about the types of ingredients you're using so that they're versatile can really help with this strategy. The next one, number 6, is save the smoothies. I think this should be a national campaign because, you know, the truth is bananas are one of the most disposed food items in the United States. We throw out over 1 billion pounds of bananas every single year. And I was just thinking to myself, those poor bananas did not need to perish. You know, a banana is one of those things that you can eat super ripe, peel and all. We actually have a great little take-home PDF. It's a downloadable PDF. It's called Save the Peels, and it teaches you lots of different ways to use the peels in your cooking, whether it be smoothies or putting it in a banana bread, or even using the peel for household cleaning, going back to cleaning. Did you know that you can use a banana peel to polish silver? Who knew? So lots of different ways to use the banana. And I participated in a cooking competition here in my area in San Diego. It's an event called Wasted, showing how to use food that would normally end up in the trash in different ways. And people went crazy over that banana bread, I'm just saying. So that recipe is in that little free take home that you can find on our website. The peel contains over 30% of the fruit's nutrients. So there's a lot of merit in that. I just say clean it well. You can use the Eat Cleaner to clean the banana, clean all your fruit, and use the peel. You know, citrus peels they add so much flavor to your food. They're full of essential oils and that scent that just takes your food over the edge and makes it so good. And I like to make these freezer bags. So when you buy ingredients to make your smoothie, just dump it all into a bag. You know, you can put your washed spinach, and you can put your date. I love to make date shakes. Put your pitted dates in there. Add your protein powder. Just kind of put everything into your bag, so none of the fresh ingredients that you would normally use would go to waste. You can use berries. You can use your cut mango, whatever you've got, and inventory what you've got in your refrigerator. If you see things starting to get a little mushy, perfect candidate for the smoothie bag. Number 7 is prioritize clean snacking. You know, I think out of convenience, again, it's really easy to pull up to the fast food window. It's really easy to just buy everything already made in a package, or stop into a convenience store and just kind of load up on stuff that's already packaged. But the truth is, all of that packaging is also contributing to landfill waste. So if there's anything that you can do to actually save your own health and the planet's, is making your own clean snacks, buying fresh fruit, or frozen, getting things in bulk like nuts, making hummus using beans, cutting up all those veggies, You know, these are simple, versatile snacks. They're not fancy, but they're good for you, and they aren't all of these individually wrapped and packaged things. I have a great recipe for a blueberry vanilla chia seed pudding in my book that is so delicious, and it sets itself up basically overnight. And then when you're eating clean and you're filling your body with good for you foods, you're avoiding the risk of also relying on other people to make the food for you. And I'm not saying don't go support your local restaurant. Do that every once in a while, but it certainly will save your health and prevent you from taking home a lot of take-home stuff if you just rely on simple ingredients that you can mix and match. One thing that we have is that I wanted to make you aware of. It's one of our newest products, and it's called AvoFresh. And you can add this to avocado mash to help your avocados from turning brown for up to 7 days. So we'll buy a bag of avocados, make a big avocado mash, and that ends up going into so many of our meals. So that's a nice way to prevent your avocados from going bad, and buying them in the bags is just a lot more economical. And then the last point that I want to talk about is meal prepping for success. You know, when you're in control of your food safety and the shelf life extension of your own individual ingredients, you can meal prep for success with such minimal effort. You know, get those different ingredients that you can mix and match and put into wraps, bowls, salads, make baked and stuffed items, soups and stews. We're rounding the corner into soup and stew, but you can also make cool ones. I've got a great blender gazpacho recipe that I'd love to share. And sautés. This is a great strategy to be able to eat to thrive. And when you organize your fridge, when you wash your food, you take all of the different steps that I've just talked about. You make sure that your prep area is clean, and that the contact surfaces are clean, and everything that you are doing, you have control of. You're in the driver's seat. And I think now more than ever, it's so important that we take that onus, that we know where our food comes from. We know where the ingredients that we're purchasing, how they're handled. And I want to help you master this with some of the strategies that I've put together into a free guide. And I'll talk about how you can get that guide in just a second. But these are the strategies that I implement for smart meal prepping: shopping from a list, buying in bulk. You can supplement by getting your foods online if you don't have them at your local grocery store, to avoid going to multiple stores. I mentioned doubling the batch and freezing items that you may not be using all of, but that you can go back to, and achieving this zero waste strategy with your prep. So if that sounds like something that you would like to be able to implement, would love for you to check us out at Eat Cleaner on social media. We're at Eat Cleaner on Instagram, on Facebook, eatcleaner.com. We also have the podcast that you can link to from the website at eatcleaner.com, and also check out my book. But you can also get my free guide by texting Fit Foodie to 22828. This is going to give you a free copy of the Clean Eating Handbook. It's a 117-page handbook. I know it sounds like a lot, but it's a quick read to help you implement these strategies and also learn about meal prepping and enjoying every bite. I have to say that, you know, and this is a whole nother topic, but we can take control of our own health by what we put into our mouths, into our bodies every single day, arming ourselves, boosting our immunity, and also taking care of the health of the planet. So I hope this has been helpful, and I think we have some time for questions.
Thank you so much, Mareya. I would love to have a refrigerator that looks like yours.
Hey, I'm just saying, it doesn't look like that all the time, but it does when I set it up.
Especially with feeding 5 kids. Your presentation was really terrific, and we appreciate you sharing your expertise with our audience today with the Florida Restaurant Show. It's a great way to at least stay connected on these times where we're all doing this from home.
Definitely.
We do thank our audience. We do have a few questions, but I did want to just mention that this webinar will be available on our website, flrestaurantandlodgingshow.com/live at your table. And you'll also be able to visit that site and register for other sessions that are taking place throughout the day today and tomorrow as part of the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Show. So actually, I'm talking about your the refrigerator that you were showing. Are there? Do you have any suggestions on, are there refrigerator companies that put together those types of products that people can buy, and where do you find them?
The containers.
Yeah, the containers.
I think it would be a really smart marketing idea if anybody works with a company. I think it would be really, really cool because I think most refrigerators don't think about that, the way they're kind of designed. So it's been my experience. I like to buy these clear glass snap lock containers. I'll get them on Amazon. You may have a preferred vendor that you like to use. That's a great place to go. Crate and Barrel has them. Lots of different organization stores. The Container Store has them as well. They also have containers that you can use to compartmentalize your refrigerator. So, kind of these clear plastic containers that I use, I get those on Amazon as well. And I'd be happy to share some actual links to the products. Oh, actually, you know what? On our website, and I don't know if there's a way to share this exact blog, but I do have a blog that shares some of my favorite kitchen tools, and those are on there. So
Oh,
there is that information that takes you to the direct links
oh, wonderful. Okay, we'll direct people to your website. That would be
to the blog.
wonderful. Great. So regarding food safety, so many restaurants are now eating outdoor dining, although many will be going indoors because of the cold weather that'll be happening in most of the country come the winter. So is
Yeah.
it safer to eat outdoors, or is there more opportunity for contamination in outdoor dining?
Boy, that's a great question. I think about this all the time because obviously being in the elements, there's a whole different layer. Without getting too paranoid, I think here's just my general consensus because look, I have a lot of friends in the food industry and a lot of friends that own restaurants, and my heart breaks for those who have not been able to carry on their businesses. And I think everybody is doing the best that they can. So what I would say is just in general, look at the food safety practices of the restaurant and just read reviews, ask questions. If you see that they're doing their due diligence, you can see a visual, you can look at the cleanliness of silverware and cups and plates and stuff and kind of get an idea. But the truth is, unless you're standing in the kitchen and watching everything come out, there's no way that we can control it. So I just say balance. Certainly, contact from people when you're outside, it's a little bit easier to control. Inside, it's not so much. So just, proceed with caution.
Right. Great advice. Great advice. And in regards to food safety, we're coming upon flu season as well. Are there tips that you can give to restaurateurs, just extra precautions they should be taking, and for both regards of both COVID and the flu season?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think training for every single individual that's working, whether you're a server or actually have your hands in the food, is really important. Food safety handler certificates. I mean, generally speaking, it only needs to be the manager on duty. And that's just not enough. I mean, the manager, is not enough when you've got a whole crew of people that are coming into contact with food. Now, in a lot of cases, that company or that owner will require others to do it, but it's not always necessary. I mean, it's not always required, I should say, but it is necessary. So invest in your people, invest in training, review practices, post them so that they're top of mind, and let your guests know what you're doing. I think full transparency is really, really important. I think just promoting what you're doing to ensure that food safety practices are being implemented. You know, that grocery store that I went to, I will never go back there again. I mean, what I saw, I can't undo. It like grossed me out so much. So just know that everybody that works for you is an ambassador of your brand, and it's hard to take that back once it's been done. So just continue training and sharing with others.
Right. Great advice. Great advice. Well, thank you again so much for sharing your expertise with our audience. We really appreciate it. And we hope we get to see you in person soon at one of our events in 21. And we hope you have a
Oh, I
great
really
day.
hope so too.
Yes, us too. All right. Thank you so much again for joining us, and look at our website for other events that we will have throughout the day.
Have a great week, everybody.
All right. Thank you.